Hello and welcome back to my channel. Subscribe, like and share your comments in the comment section down below at the end of the video. Now in today's video, we look at the reasons why African Americans, or Black Americans rather, are leaving Africa going back to America. Now in the videos, they share or give reasons why, and for some the reasons are based on experience. Now in these videos that I'm going to share with you guys, you will hear a brother saying that mainly it's because these people are never prepared, because what a lot of African Americans are told is that it is very cheap to live in Africa, when it's not. So a lot of Black people have made mistakes of moving back to Africa, having this narrative in mind, minus them knowing or understanding the system, which turns out to be very difficult when they have finally settled, making them realize a lot of things and forcing them to relocate again or go back to America rather. Now, still on the same, a sister also shares quite the same reasons to say she has tried staying in Africa but has failed because she feels broke and poor in Africa, this making her not afford living in Africa. She compares her life when she was still in America and now that she's in Africa, and it's like a sister just can't keep up. Check out these videos as a brother and a sister share their reasons and experiences. I will be right back.
Okay, so the number one reason why I left Tanzania is because I was getting scammed numerous times. Was I scammed? So I left Tanzania and I've been back in the US for almost 2 months. And for me, it was the best decision that I could have ever made for my future and for my son's future.
What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Today, I want to talk about why so many African Americans are moving back to America from Africa and why I think it is, right? I actually think it's pretty obvious. I think the reason why African Americans who moved to Africa, and a lot of them are coming back, is simply because they weren't prepared. It's just that simple. They were not prepared. Their enthusiasm and their love and the feelings and all the sprinkles and watercolors and all that stuff got ahead of their administrative responsibilities. So, because a lot of people told them that, hey, it's very cheap to live in Africa. It's very cheap. It's cheap. It's cheap. Take your money. Come over here and do this, do that. Africa, we're calling you home. And people got so excited. People actually picked up and moved to Africa on their first visit. Some people went to Africa on one vacation, right? No matter what country it is they went to. And they went home, packed all that stuff, and moved, right? And the reason why I think that's a bad thing is because after the glitz and glamour is over, after the honeymoon phase is over, right? After the nostalgia is over, there's still the administrative stuff to take care of, right? You still have to understand the system. You still have to have money being generated, right? And you got some people that want to go to Africa and get a job, right? And unfortunately, at this moment in time, unless you have some sort of high skilled discipline that is necessary and is lacking in some of these African countries, you going there to get a job might just be a dead mission, right? First, not only is it a bad idea to go there seeking a job, unless you, like I said, have a specialty, you will also be taken away from the locals who are also struggling to get their own jobs, right? You don't want to be like that, do you? So unless you're going there to create jobs, to start a business, then you wouldn't be an asset to the community. You would be a liability to the community at this point in time. There will be a point in time where people will be able to migrate to Africa for jobs, but that's probably about 10 to 20 years down the line. Once the initial repatriates, the initial diaspora that go back to build, and the initial, when the continentals, who are gathering and forming and creating better governments and systems, once all that stuff starts to mature and the opportunity truly blossoms the way it's gone, I mean, it's on its way. It's happening. You can literally see it happening. It's just not there yet. So right now, those people who would love to move back to Africa, but it requires them to get a job and they don't have any specific skills, but they had a little bit of savings, those people are the ones who jumped out there, right? And they got to come back because they don't have enough money to survive. Because as cheap as as it is to live over there is not really that cheap. You still need money. You still got to have some sort of reoccurring income to pay your rent, to pay your daily, you know, your daily bills or your daily, you know, whatever it is you got to do daily, right? Things can add up, and your savings, unless you have millions of dollars in your account, it's not going to cut it, right? So all I'm saying is the reason why people are leaving because they just left too soon. They didn't prepare properly, right? And that's always going to happen. I got a friend in Akiti, Nigeria, right? He's never been to America, never been anywhere, right? He owns all this property. He's got a bunch of land. He got some rental properties on there, but he wants to move, him and his family, to Canada. He's never been to Canada because he believes that Canada is this place where he's going to get all this opportunity. I tried to convince him otherwise, but you know, sometimes when a person's mind is made up, it's made up. And he wants to jump ship and move to Canada. I happen to know that he's going to be setting himself up for failure because I can see it, right? He wants to leave a place where he has land that's appreciating. He has property that he's making money monthly. He wants to sell all of that, right? And move him and his family with his children to Canada, where he will be introduced to reoccurring monthly bills, reoccurring monthly water bill, electric bill, gas bill, rent, higher cell phone bills, reoccurring bills he's never even encountered before, and he's going to get trapped in a cycle, right? And he's going to either have to deal with it or he's going to have to jump shit his ass back. So a lot, just like a lot of, when you got a lot of enthusiastic people going to Africa, you know, and they're going a little bit ahead of themselves, and they spend all their money and their hopes and dreams, and they make mistakes because they don't quite know the system, or the system not quite set up to be efficient, they end up having to come back. It's the same way with anybody, with any group of people that want to immigrate to another country. It's a tall order to immigrate to another country. You're talking about a completely different system. You're talking about a completely different system that you have to get used to and understand and learn all the little nuances in order to survive, in order to be able to get along, right? And that can be difficult for some people, all right? So I think that's why people, African Americans, are coming back to America from different countries in Africa. But I do believe most of these people will just regather themselves and they'll go back and try again, right? If you fail once, keep trying. Fail twice, keep trying. Fail 3 times, keep trying, especially if it's your passion. So, but slowly but surely, as the expat community gets bigger, as we start forming businesses around the services necessary to make it a smoother transition, you know, for us people to go back and forth from our motherland to the other places that we reside in, it'll be easier for people to go back and forth, right? And keep in mind, from America to Africa is 1 day away. It's one plane ticket. It's one plane ride away. So you can establish yourself in Africa while keeping yourself in America. Just remember, when you travel, just think about that day as a goner, right? Just like if you were to travel anywhere else in America, you just give up that 1 day. So you can magically teleport yourself to any place in the world, as long as you just give up 1 day of watching Netflix while waiting in line, a day of watching your favorite YouTube channels while sitting on the plane, just sitting there until you get to your destination. So don't think, I think in this day and age of information and rapid transit around the world, we have to stop thinking about these vast distances as an obstacle, when it's not. It's literally just a day away. Just a day of entertainment away. Okay, so keep that in mind. And don't ever give up on your dreams of going to Africa if you want to. And take your time. You can take your time. You can take 5, 6, 10 years to go back and forth, setting things up, getting used to things, making connections until you're ready to fully make the jump permanently. Okay.
Good morning, YouTube. I tried so hard to stay here in Africa, but I really think my time is up now. I had enough. I cannot afford to live here. I feel broke and I feel poor in Africa. I feel like I'm going to be out there selling some shit soon because this ain't making no sense to me. I pay $130 a day to drive around in a truck. I paid $100 a day to live in a 2-bedroom and there's 6 of us with no hot water, no stove, no refrigerator. The refrigerator broke. Then on top of that, I got lizards crawling in the bed with me. I live in America in a mansion, and we don't have to put no water on the stove. We got steady hot water, steady electricity, and the only time our electricity get cut off is when we don't pay the bill. And we got it so good now, we got prepaid electricity, so if we forget to pay the bill, we put some money on that prepaid thing and it comes right back on in 2 minutes. In less than 2 minutes. This shit here didn't come on for 14 hours yesterday. I can't deal. I love the people. Don't get me wrong. When I'm outside, I'm having fun. I love the people. But when I come back to reality, when you come back home, home is where the heart is, right? When you come back home, you're supposed to feel comfortable. You're supposed to be happy. I'm not happy. Every house I look for, the house is expensive as hell. Oh my God. 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, 800, 900, $1 million to live in a house where you look outside and all you see is turkeys and ducks and chickens and sheeps and old malnourished cows. I didn't even pay that much for my house in America. And everybody I talk to is saying the same thing. Oh, this house is $500,000. Oh, this house is $200,000. This house is $300,000. I'm like, I can't afford to live here. I cannot. I paid $100,000 for my house in a good ass community. But y'all, I'd rather go back to America and deal with in America before I sit here in Africa and deal with the shit bribery, the shit fraud, the bullshit scams, the bullshit too expensive, the bullshit not having no snacks, the bullshit not having no food, the bullshit electricity, the bullshit hot water, the bullshit what's they called that be coming down. Animals and scorpions outside the house. It's big ass spiders. It's big lizards, colorful lizards you ain't never seen before. All in the room with you, sleeping with you. All the people trying to scam you when you go outside, thinking you rich, so they trying to get more money off of you. I'm really trying to wrap my head around this. I'm really trying to wrap my head around how are Americans coming to Africa and being happy. Please comment down below, because for me, I'm ready to go. And I always used to say, if it's up to me, it will be, and I'm going to go out to Africa and make it happen. No, I don't want to. I want to take my businesses back to America. I want to open up shop back in America, open up my dentist office and all the stuff that I was going to do out here in America.
Now, it seems like these two are not the only ones who have experienced this, because as I was carrying out my research, I found another brother expressing himself in a video talking about the same. And according to him, he said, as I quote, "Why would you want to leave a country that you're struggling in to go to a country or continent rather you are going to struggle worse? Why would you leave a country that you can make it in and try to go to a continent that you're not going to make it in? Why would you leave a country and you have not considered the cost, and when you get to the other country or continent, the cost is killing you? Why would you leave a country that you have not made something of yourself to go to a country where you won't even have the possibility to make something of yourself?" What this man was simply saying in this video is that when going to Africa, you need to have your money intact, because you can't be going to Africa to look for a job. If you're not self-made in America, it's going to be hard for you to go to Africa and start a business. Now, if you've never done business before, it's going to make it that much more harder, because business is done different in Africa. There are people that have gone to Africa, started a business and go broke and haven't even made it a year. So if you don't have the capital, then don't even try it, because some people don't even understand what a capital is. If you don't have money in the bank sitting that can take care of your business after your business has gone through some suffering, then it can't sustain your business for 2 years without you making money. You ain't going to go to Africa and start a business with $5,000 US. You exhaust your money and expect your business to start making money that month. Now, this is where we are. Have a lack of knowledge. People need to take their time, because this does not happen overnight. Is living in African cities expensive? Well, a comparison of cost of living across major cities in the world regularly intrigues people. The latest annual report by the Economist Intelligence Unit, EIU, for example, points to Singapore as the most expensive city to live in. The cheapest city in the ranking of 133 cities is Lusaka in Zambia, followed by two Indian cities, Bangalore and Mumbai. Now, the index created by the EIU for ranking world cities encompasses the prices of a variety of goods and services. Yet, many of those items are what typically consumed by foreign residents, with different tests and budgets from local residents. While it is very interesting to look at which cities are expensive from a standpoint of experts, instead have to know which cities are more or less expensive to live in for the locals by taking into account their different income levels. Now, a recent study prepared with co-authors, Is Living in African Cities Expensive?, revealed how living in sub-Saharan African cities is expensive relative to their low income levels. The key finding is that despite their lower income levels, living in African cities is costly compared with countries at comparable income levels. The prices of goods and services consumed by households in urban Africa are around 30% higher. Particularly expensive are food and non-alcoholic beverages, 35%, housing, rent, 55%, and transport, 42%, i.e. household expenditure on purchase of vehicles, operation of personal transport equipment, and transport services. Now, a central challenge for this study was that globally comparable price information is rarely available. So, in order to overcome this challenge, there is need to take advantage of new data prepared by the 2011 International Comparison Program, ICP, which reported national price levels for various types of goods and services. Now, to compare costs of living in cities across countries, the adjusted price levels in African countries from national to urban levels based on non-capital city to national price ratios, and compare these with price levels of other countries that had collected price surveys predominantly in urban areas. The finding was that living in African cities is highly costly, illuminates various underlying problems. The high cost not only makes cities less livable, but also limit the benefits of urban economy. Because food and building costs are high, families sacrifice on health and decent housing. Because commuting is not only slow but expensive, workers find it difficult to find and keep jobs that match their skills, and workers' need for higher wages to compensate for the high cost of living makes firms less productive and competitive. Now, in a 2023 article, the headline read, Cost of living to hit African nations harder than rich ones. Africa will continue to suffer a tough year as cost of living soars despite positive signs on inflation, a result of a high import bill and low wages. In many African countries, headline inflation appears to have peaked last year and is already decelerating, but situations unique to developing and low-income nations in Africa especially might continue to affect livelihoods for the rest of the year, pundits gathered at World Economic Forum, WEF, in Davos, Switzerland. Now, for instance, food expenditures gobble up a higher proportion of household incomes in the developing world compared with richer countries, and with wages also relatively lower, the cost of living crisis would be bigger for African countries than the richer ones. For example, Jita Gopinath, the International Monetary Fund's first deputy executive director, said prices will still remain high for most of 2023 because even though inflation is slowing down, there is no deflation, meaning that commodity prices are still rising, just lower, and the impact differs between countries and households. Now, food prices have come down, but they are still about 30% above 2019 levels, and we are likely to see the retail prices of food going up, especially in the developing world, Ms. Gonipath said while speaking at the forum session on stemming the cost of living crisis. Now, Laura Tyson, an economics professor at the University of California, said the inflation of main components of cost of living, food, housing, and energy, exacerbated a poverty problem throughout the world as wages did not improve correspondingly. We have seen an increase in the number of people living in poverty instead of a reduction because the inflation worsened a problem that existed before and that we haven't solved, she said at the same session in Davos. Now, this bleak picture is evident in the region where, despite inflation peaking last November in most of the countries, citizens are still grappling with high food and fuel prices. Indeed, in moves lauded by both World Bank and IMF, the region's central banks, like others globally, have hiked their policy rate to tame soaring inflation that was mainly occasioned by the conflict in Eastern Europe. Nonetheless, food and energy prices remain significantly higher than pre-pandemic levels, and wages have stagnated, resulting in a drop in real income, according to a recent report by UN Economic Commission for Africa. Now, based on the ECA report, the Ukraine crisis, coupled with devastating climate catastrophes on the continent, was projected to push at least 310 million Africans, over a third of the population, into hunger by the end of 2022, with several others facing extreme food insecurity. In some developed economies, however, the cost of living crisis is expected to be milder in 2023 as inflation rates relent following the tightening of monetary policies. Germany is one of them. Now, speaking during the same session in Davos, the German finance minister said their government had set aside $217 billion to cushion citizens from the high cost of living, but they might not need all of it as the situation has significantly improved. Now, the price levels are lower than we expected. We have less hardship cases, and my expectation is that we won't won't need the whole protective shield, which is good news, she said. Now, globally, the cost of living crisis has become the most dreaded risk to people's survival and well-being over the next 2 years, the WEF's Global Risks Report released in Davos showed. Natural disasters and extreme weather events which disproportionately affect Africa is the second most cited risk. According to the survey, experts globally are pessimistic that if not adequately addressed, the risk will continue to pose volatility and turbulence in the globe's financial markets, further showing recovery. Feel free to share your own thoughts. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.